Hello, everybody, and welcome to tonight's TramSim World live stream. It's good to be back. It's the first time we've done one of these in a couple of months, and we are really excited to be with you tonight. I'm JD.
And I'm Matt, I guess.
Hello, and as you can see, I am back in the garage. It's a thing. We're back in the garage, everybody. Everything is going to be okay. I hope everybody is well. I hope everybody is doing all right. We're going to be talking to you about the TramSim World 3 roadmap tonight. Plenty of things going on, plenty of things to talk about. We're going to try and whistle through as much as we can do tonight, and we're going to be showing you a few bits and pieces. We've got all of the juicy bits from today's roadmap that was released a couple of hours ago, and we're also going to be taking some of your questions a little bit later on as well. So if you've got questions, brilliant, ask them, but we're going to have a dedicated section at the end where we're going to try and answer some of your kind of larger questions about things that are going on. So, yeah, quite a lot's been happening in March and April, hasn't it, Matt?
Yeah, and I'm still working here as well.
Hey, that's all good as well. Yeah, oh yeah, we would like to confirm that Matt is still working here at Dovetail, contrary to rumour. We are. Let me just quickly show for you today's roadmap because we have the nice little graphic for you. Let's transition over to that. So yes, as you can see, we have. It's quite difficult to read. I know. We tried to get this in as usable a format for everybody as possible. So hopefully you can read all of that. We've got some bits and pieces in there to talk about. We've got a new arrival. We've got a couple of new add-ons to the Dovetail Games releases, and a few other interesting bits and pieces that have been added to the special projects team and patches section too. So let's start with the changes to the roadmap this time round. We can announce tonight that the next British route for TramSim World 3 is Glossop Line, Manchester to Hadfield and Glossop, which is something we're really excited about. We'll talk a little bit more about it when we go into the detail, and it's still a little while away from being released yet, but that's the new British route, and we'll be telling you a little bit more about it in the coming weeks and months. We would like to confirm at this stage as well with Glossop Line, because there was a lot of questions about things like pricing, particularly when we released it, and can confirm tonight that the pricing for this particular route, hot off the press, will be £19.99. So whatever the equivalent of that is in your relevant countries. So it's a slightly cheaper route than you would normally expect. We're going to talk a little bit about sort of why that might be, and also some of the bits and pieces you can expect from the route a little bit later on. But that is hot off the press over the course of the last sort of 45 minutes. It's been confirmed we can talk about that. Also, we've added a new German loco to the roadmap, which is very exciting. Next bit of German content for players is coming soon on our Dovetail Games releases section. And also on the special projects team, we've included Midland Mainline post-release patch as well, which the Skyhook team are working on at the moment. And also, excitingly, we're going to be improving the timetable for New York to Trenton as well. Again, more information coming up on that. There's a detailed selection of things like this on the roadmap if you want to read it, but we'll also talk about it tonight as well. So that is kind of in summary, in brief, where we're at with the roadmap. A couple of other things to mention. We go back onto the main cams for a second. So there is a Spirit of Steam patch coming later this week, which we're excited to be releasing. We know it's a little bit overdue, but there are some interesting fixes in there. Like there are some physics improvements, there are some AI SPAD improvements. Matt's tested them himself, and he's happy with them. So we should hopefully be getting that out to you later this week in advance of Peak Forest's release, which is next Tuesday. We also have, within the realms of the roadmap, we have a couple of interesting updates from Skyhook and from Just Trains. And there's also an in development section as well, which is really interesting, which Lucas has put together around LiDAR scanning and building some of the landscapes within TSW3. Now that's a really interesting read. We're not going to go into that tonight, but if you're interested, then check out the article. A couple of other things of admin just before we get into the fun stuff. You know me and admin. Bet you've missed this, everybody. We talked a little bit last week about a couple of weeks ago about having to celebrate the new our new kind of parent company being based in Paris in France. We are going to be releasing or giving LGV away for free. In May, we can confirm at least mostly that's going to be May the 26th to June the 2nd. That's subject to confirmation on Xbox from Microsoft. If that changes, we will let you know. But that's the planned date that DLC will be available for free. You can download it during that window, absolutely free, and it will stay in your libraries forever. So that's really cool. We'd love to be able to kind of share that with you. Finally, you might have noticed on the roadmap graphic, and I'll just quickly transition back to that a second, we have some categorization that we've changed in this one. We have now next arrival, we have in development, in planning, and not on this graphic, but there's another one which is stuck at a red light. We thought we'd try and get some train terminology in there somewhere. But next arrival is stuff that you can expect to see ideally before the next roadmap. So should be released between now and the next roadmap. In development is something that is in active development, but could be sort of between longer than a month away, but perhaps less than 3 months away. And then in planning, so this is something that's either in the planning stages, or we might have had to go back to the drawing board, or it's blocked, or it's not. We haven't got a fixed release date for it yet. So initial development might have started, but expect this to be around 3 to 9 months away. But again, we'll give more updates when they come closer to release. And at a red light is something that's not in active development, but it's something that we're committed to delivering. So there's no ETA at this point for those. So there's a little bit more categorization. We know there was a little bit of feedback about not knowing perhaps the timeframes on some of this stuff when it might be coming out. We hope that gives a little bit more of an indication when things might be coming out. Cool. Okay, back to the initial screens. Let's talk, before we get into showing pictures and talking all about the content on the roadmap. I think we need to talk a little bit about March and April, Matt. And hopefully I can give my voice a little bit of a rest as well. I'm sure everyone's tired of me talking. So Matt, would you be able to just by way of quick summary, let us know how things in your eyes have gone over the course of the last couple of months? Because I think when we've been looking at how we've been releasing content and all of that kind of stuff, there have been things that have hit the right notes, and there have been things that perhaps haven't quite hit the notes that we would want to expect, that we've come to expect from Dovetail. What's your kind of honest assessment of where we've been over the last couple of months? Oh, bear with me, Matt. It's coming up as that you are. It's not picking up your audio. Bear with me 1 second.
No, it's my fault.
Oh, Matt. And just when I thought it was going to be me that was going to be, that I was going to have the problem to do with audio. That's my calling card, Matt. Okay. Do you want to start again?
Oh dear, yeah, sure. Sorry, I muted myself so that I wouldn't cough and splutter over while you were talking, and then forgot to unmute myself, which is normally what happens when I'm in meetings I'm in as well. So it's all good. Yeah. So I think the team have done. I need to give a shout out to the team. They've worked really hard in this period, and have delivered some really good content. But I guess it's kind of, there are a number of elements of it that haven't really sort of landed the way that we wanted it to, or been received the way we'd liked it to. And so we need to think about what we can do to improve that. And one of those areas is certainly about consistency, and the sort of the things that are getting out through QAs is something that's been a consistent thing. So, and that's not meant to be a dig on QA. It's a whole thing that we need to look at in terms of what we can do, because sometimes it's about how we can support QA as well. So it's this whole process there that we need to sort of get a handle on. But yeah, I think, like I said, I don't want to be down on any of the individual teams. They've actually all stepped up. I know people have worked some longer hours and put out some really great content. What we need to do now is what we can learn from the things that have gone wrong, the feedback that we've got from players, because some of that's right down to the design decisions that have been taken and what we can do to improve that. Now, not every product product is going to land well with everybody, because that's not possible. We're all different. But where someone that should like a product hasn't liked a product, then there's something to be learned there. So that's what we're going to be looking at.
Yeah, and I think we've got a few initiatives that we have listed in the roadmap that we're going to be sort of taking on to try and. I think that the important thing to note with some of these is that these are kind of more long-term plays from us. They're not necessarily things that are going to have a massive short-term impact, but these are things that we hope are going to cement and improve the processes longer term for players of our game for the foreseeable future. And what we're looking at for things like a standardized list of first party and third party content. And I know we've talked about this a little bit before on roadmaps, but Matt, can you give us a quick description of what you mean by that?
Yeah, so this is about, a route pack must contain these things, and it must be done this way. We've started to employ some of that stuff as a trial. So it helped find one of the add-ons earlier on in the year had a non-standard key combination for safety systems, and some things like that. So it's starting to prove useful. Basically the process we're in at the moment is finalizing that and getting it actually used. So I think starting from pretty much peak onwards, I think, is that process should be just after peak. Peak is signed off now, so it'll be after. Onwards from there, we'll be getting this list in, and it'll be part then of pre-processes with our internal teams and also with third parties. What is expected to be in this add-on when it comes out, and part of that is making sure that they're compatible with the TSW3 feature set. So has it got the deep snow in it, and so forth. And let's sort of start solving these things ahead of time, rather than discovering when it's far too late that it's not there. So we're going to talk about that, and then it feeds right through to then at the end of the process. So one of the things, for example, I want to do is have the teams, internal, external, whether it's us or whether it's third party, it's irrelevant at this point whether it's a Dovetail product or a third party product. At the end of the day, you're buying a thing and you want to know that thing is consistent and good. So I want the teams to look at this thing and sort of set out what it's going to contain, and everyone sign up to, yes, these are the things it will contain, and then have a discussion where they don't think it'll meet the standard, so that we can at least know from minute one. And then at the end of the day, marry that up with so that QA then, when they get the route, they can start going through based on what was originally said to be there, check it against this firm list. Now QA have already got a comprehensive test suite, so this will sort of go ahead with that. The words are failing me. This will dovetail nicely with what they're doing there. There you go.
On brand as well, Matt. I love it.
There you go. See, but it'll go nicely with that and enhance it. But it means that we've then got top and tail, a consistency then for everything, and where there is going to be a variation, everybody is on board with that right up front, or rejecting it right up front and saying no, you can't not do that. Don't be silly. So I think that standardized list of features is going to make a big difference on its own. But there are some other stuff that we're going to look at as well. Do you want me to go on through the list?
Well, no, what I was just going to quickly follow on with, are you going to make that list public, or is it going to be an internal list only?
It'll start out internal. Whether it becomes public or not, I don't know at this point. So I'm not going to promise it'll go external. But in theory, I can't think of a reason why it shouldn't be. So, but no, I'm not going to promise it'll go public yet. But if it can be, and I'll push that to the powers that be and see what the feeling is there. But yeah, I think we probably want to run through the process a few times, and make sure that we are holding ourselves up to that standard.
Because I was going to say, it's all about accountability, isn't it? And I think that's from our perspective what we need to make sure is happening across all of this different content. A couple of times people have mentioned, say for instance, TSW3 Snow, for instance, which hasn't quite hit where we wanted it to hit for a few of the recent releases, and it's got too far along the process before it's been able to be we've got to a point where we haven't been able to add it because it's too far along the process. So it's certainly something that I think needs to happen from a consistency perspective, and again, making that more public, I guess, makes us more accountable too. So I would be in favour of it, but obviously
Yeah,
you have to
likewise.
be comfortable with it, and we have to be comfortable with it as well.
Yeah, I mean, we're going to probably go through a few iterations of it as it gets. Nothing survives the first moments of
Mm.
battle anyway. So,
Yeah.
we will iterate through this as it goes into active production. And I really, as a chief longship, shouldn't players support you as to expectations and standard features. So I've been discussing some of this stuff, and actually the documentation for this stuff, this checklist has enhanced quite a bit as a basis of the feedback I got from that thread. So yes, and I am looking whenever we see stuff coming back in reviews, I'm working out. Oh yeah, we should have caught that. How do I put that into the spec so that we catch it, or at least ensure it doesn't happen? So, like I said, we want to top and tail the process. So, part of it is not just about determining what's wrong at the end of the day; it's making sure it doesn't go wrong in the first place.
Mm.
That I think that is the right process, and it should improve that quite a bit. But that is already in support from that, and I'm always open for more feedback and more input. You guys hold us to account and tell us what you'd like to see better, and we can accommodate that. This is then the vehicle for that.
Absolutely, and Golden Ticket 420, who I know looks after the TSW subreddit as well, said supporting you on Reddit and happy to kind of help in any PS5 betas. Now, we've got another bullet point. Let's talk about betas because that's kind of segues nicely into betas. So one of the things also we're looking to do is to extend the beta program.
Mhm.
Bring in some more individuals into it to help us out and play through content and give us their honest and impartial feedback throughout the course of the development process. So that's something that we're going to be looking to do. I
And
don't know.
before you all spam me DMs on the forums, wait, we can put our form out and we'll do it properly through a process.
Yeah.
And this will be for PC and Xbox. We still don't have a beta mechanism for PlayStation at this point.
Yes. So
But
sorry,
I want
Golden
to
Ticket, you might have
roll
to
in a
wait a little while longer.
want to roll a few more people into those teams and expand them a little,
Yeah.
particularly Xbox actually.
Yeah.
It's a process that's working really well, but I'd just like to get some new blood in there.
And Amazte's asked a good question as well, talking about ambassadors should do more. That's not the purpose of what ambassadors are there to do. Our beta community are the ones that are sort of playing and testing the content. They're the ones that are able to provide a little bit more of a detailed feedback. They might be subject matter experts in certain areas that they might be able to give us some insight. Ambassadors are primarily designed to be kind of playing our games and enjoying our games and showing our games to different types of people. So some of them are in the beta community, and some of them do a brilliant job of making sure that things get flagged, but that's not their purpose. They're not there to critically assess the games. They can if they want to, but they're there to kind of sit back and play the stuff and hopefully enjoy it as they go through it.
Yes, I mean it's a process that works generally quite well. But as I said, but will you listen to them? That's the question. Oh, you listen to the beta team very, very closely.
I think
We can't
you're on with them
always.
beforehand, Matt, weren't you? Having a discussion about different things and
Literally, we've been talking about things in peak. It's a discussion about the origin of the name Bobby. That sometimes the Discord goes off on a tangent, um, and you'll find out why when you play the scenarios. But yeah, we have lots of discussions back and forth. They make recommendations. We can't take every suggestion, every bug report, and take it forward through, but we take as many as we can, and the team bend over backwards. So I think 2 scenarios have been completely rewritten from scratch based on beta team feedback. And they've gone from beta team saying, well, that was mediocre at best, to best scenario in the game. Putting words into people's mouths now, but it's
we'll put that on the trailer, shall we?
so it's we do try and listen to them as much as we can, and one of the benefit, but we don't always we never just ignore the feedback. It's always provided a fed, we always feedback, oh, we can't do that because, and more often than not, actually, because when the beta team members are right in there amongst us effectively, and more often than not, the beta team say this probably isn't possible, but what do you think about blah? And actually then we can, because they already know, because they know what we're doing and so forth, they know how things go. So actually, I want a big shout out to the beta team. They're a really, really valuable bunch. They supply a lot of great information. They put up with a lot of broken scenarios before you guys get them, and they're constantly giving us brilliant, brilliant feedback. So, massive shout out for them and all the help they give us.
Cool. Okay. Sort of on building and expanding different teams, we're looking at expanding the production team to provide more focus, more rigor on particularly add-on development. Matt, can you give us a little
Yeah,
bit more addition on that?
so we have a new assistant producer joining soon, and her role will be specifically to work with me on DLC, to have a second set of eyes looking over DLC, working with the beta team and understanding community feedback and so on and so forth. And she's already given some really excellent insights from one of the tasks that we give to for potential producers is to sort of pose a new feature or something like or a change that you'd make to the game, and she was really good at actually going out and seeing what the community were wanting and justifying the feedback, the feature she was suggesting based on what the community said, so you got someone on your side there coming along as well. So I'm really hyped for her coming along, and what that'll mean for, so it's an extra set of eyes is going to be really good at sort of testing and so on and so forth on that. So I mean, we have other producers as well that are looking at all sorts of different aspects. Some of them are looking more at core technology. I tend to specialize more on the DLC, the trains and the routes that are coming through, having an extra set of eyes there is going to be very cool.
Absolutely. Two more bits and pieces just on this section. We're looking at squeezing on as much gameplay as we can do from the content that we're able to. Now, that I think is a little bit of a generalized term, but I think it does sort of provide a little bit of we've noted the feedback from some of the content that's been coming out over the course of the last sort of 2 or 3 months where perhaps players have felt like the gameplay elements have been lacking, particularly things like the amount of services, the kind of the diversity of scenarios, that kind of thing. And I think what we're looking at, Matt, is we're looking at being able to moving forward be able to bring a little bit more of that kind of thing to pieces of content that are coming out.
Yeah, absolutely. It's one of the continuous discussions, those internal battles that you go through. I say it in the most positive sense. Where is authenticity? If you've got authenticity on one slider, and you've got fun and gameplay on the other slider, which one takes priority? And before you say authenticity always, you might end up with a route that has nothing to do on it, because actually that's the authentic. Whereas actually, if you dinked the slider a little bit for on the authenticity, you'd have 10 times more to do. And this is the sort of the back and forth. Sometimes the team have actually deferred too much to the authenticity side of things, but actually if we just sacrificed it just a little bit, then you'd be able to actually use that train in a few other places where maybe it wouldn't do it normally, but it's not out of the bounds of doing it. And actually, let's work out. That's not about being silly. Let's not take it to an extreme. You're not going to find 4Fs doing Pendolino duties, for example, or anything like that. You're going to find it's like there are other things a 4F can do from trains that are a similar power level to a 4F, for example. And it's about finding a right balance and it is very much a fine line to tread so that you're being sensible, and but also then allowing more gameplay, because a solution is not an options menu puzzle, Peanut, because what you can't sort of turn once the services are authored, you can't change them, so it's really difficult. If you don't want to play a service, then just ignore it, pretend it's not there. It's very difficult to find that right balance, and we want to spend a bit more time looking at that. And again, we'll be talking more with the beta team on that front as well. So and we'll obviously look at the feedback we get from yourselves as we go too. But it's a constant discussion that's going backwards and forwards to try and find the right thing so we get the most valid gameplay out of things without being, well, that 4F, but that number was never used there, so let's not do anything like those things. And meanwhile, you've got 3 things you can do with it, so it's that's kind of where we want to improve and make sure we're doing better on that front.
Cool. And the final part of this is around what we're calling an internal focus group, which sounds very corporate and very like very much like a business, what a business would do. But what we want to try and do is we want to try to ensure that at the earliest possible stage of a route's like scoping or development or whatever, we have a group of people internally who are passionate players of our games, very big rail fans, to come in and say, well, actually, this makes my pulse move a little bit quicker. I'm really excited about this. Or actually, have you thought there might be an opportunity here for us to do X, Y, Z thing? Maybe actually we could combine these two things together and it would be really exciting. That kind of approach, we're not looking at necessarily them being like a I don't know, like a beta community or anything like that, where we are primarily trying to break the game. It's about finding kind of opportunities and making the content that we're releasing as I guess as fun and exciting as possible. So as I say, that's very much in its early stage. I think we've got our first meeting for that this week, and it's not going to be a short-term thing, but it's something that hopefully will give us a little bit more of a steer earlier on, to be able to create the best possible content that we can. Anything else you wanted to add on that at all, Matt?
No, I think it's going to be a really interesting process. The group of people. This is about some of the internal. This is our by rail fans for rail fans. This is some of the rail fans in the organisation getting together and just taking a step back from the day-to-day dev and so forth, and just looking at it from the, is it fun perspective, and is it good, and what else could we do with it, and all these kinds of things. Because sometimes you need to take a step back from the nuts and bolts of a particular scenario or loco and just say, so let's look at the product as a whole and the way that we're presenting it, and what you can do with it, and so on and so forth. So it's a really great group of people, and yeah, we'll just see how that process goes going forwards.
It's experimental. It might work out, it might not, but we thought you'd be interested to hear about it, and we'll update you if there's anything interesting that comes out of it.
Yeah, it's all been a case of working out, what can we do to bring things forward and step things up, and having that group, because we have informal feedback coming through all the time. It's like, how do we make that formal? How do we get these people in a room just talking to each other rather than it accidentally happening? So yeah, feels like a good move.
Absolutely. Yeah, so that's kind of the things that we're looking at the moment, to try and sort of take your feedback on board from the last couple of months, and also improve some of the process that we've got internally as well. In terms of the next few weeks, we're going to be looking at, so we've got Spirit of Steam patch coming later this week. We've got Peak Forest coming next Tuesday on the 9th of May. But we also have a little bit of a break after that. It's not months and months. It's a case of a few weeks where we're not going to be releasing any sort of add-ons content during that time. It gives us a little bit of an opportunity to kind of reflect, take on again the feedback that you've been providing us with, and kind of improve some of the areas that we have the capacity, the resource to be able to do in this time frame. So we'll be looking at releasing those post-release improvements to Linker Rheinstrecke, Niedertalbahn, Bremen Oldenburg that we've been talking about for the last couple of months, but haven't quite been able to get out of the door. Getting the HST livery designer, which also falls into that category, out as well as part of a Great Western Express patch. Partner program release, primarily focusing on Midland Mainline. So Skyhook have been working really closely with us in building out a suite of improvements to that route. We'll come on to that in a bit more time, as well as sort of assorted improvements to a few pieces of rivet content as well, like West Cornwall Local or Rosalini, 1938 tube stock, Island Line, all of that kind of area, and also improving and testing add-ons manager for preparation for Xbox and PC releases as well. Now, not all of that might hit this window, but that's what we're going to be kind of focusing in on over the next few weeks. So hopefully there'll be some patches that will be coming out which will address some of those areas, and we'll be looking at bolstering the New York Trenton timetable as well during this window. Again, if you haven't seen it already, there's an update on where we're at with that in the roadmap article. And we're also going to be reviewing a couple of areas now, because we haven't quite got to the point where we're confident that these are going to be able to be released during this window. We're investigating rather than we believe they're 100% sure they're going to release. But the content that falls into that category are things like the Peninsula Corridor, missing Baby Bullet services, and the outstanding TramSim World 2 releases that we know have been piling up for a little while now. So that's kind of where we're at for the next few weeks. Matt, is there anything that I've missed that is part of that selection?
No, I think that pretty much captures it all.
Cool. Okay. So yeah, that's the win. That's what we're looking at last time. I did see a couple of people talking about the kind of the period of downtime that we had last year, where we were working on some stuff in the background. A couple of people were talking about sort of that, and I don't normally call out that kind of thing on a live stream like this, but I wanted to just make sure that players were aware of a little bit more of the context. Well, obviously we got quite a lot of stuff out during that window anyway. I think it was about 5 or 6 patches for and preservation crew pieces of content. I think the Xbox audio issue was fixed during that time. But a lot of that time was actually dedicated to making sure things like the red light improvements, the save game improvements, the add-ons manager had a lot of their infrastructure built during that window. And actually, if they hadn't had that time to be able to do it, some of them might not even be out at this stage in any format. So there's a lot of work.
We also put a good 2 or 3 content patches out as well, didn't we?
Yeah, there was about 3. There were about 4 or 5, I think, during that window.
Yeah.
So of the different preservation crew releases. So I just wanted to address that and just leave that to the side, because as I say, I've responded to a couple of forum threads, but it's nice to be able to talk on in a forum like this as well.
Before we move on, there's discussion about the BR420 and the fact that it's back in planning, and I mean, it's one of those things that it's continuing to roll along, and it's because Mike is super busy, and that's our bad, I'm afraid. Mike is incredibly good at what he does, and we like to use him as much as possible on the trains that we make, because we know you like what he does. So that's probably the root cause of the 420 taking extra time, and it's kind of, at the moment, we're not sure now. The little unofficial update I can give you on the 420 is it's actually not far off. The train itself is not far off being able to be usable in game, but none of the gameplay is done yet, and we need to do a round of optimization on the Munich route where it will land, because otherwise, at the moment, chances are it will cause crashes with the extra memory usage. So the train itself is quite advanced at this point. So it has been progressing along in the background, ticking away in the background, but we need to get some work with Mike on getting the route in a better state for him to build the gameplay on. So, and we don't know when that's going to happen.
Yeah.
Hence, putting it back in planning to sort of be more realistic. We need to work out how we get it from where it is to out. But I did want to say it's not been forgotten. It has been worked on in the background.
Yeah. So just to kind of go back to that, in planning, we might change perhaps some of these the terminology that we're using for some of these, because it looks like it might have confused a few people, understandably so. But what we mean by in planning is that, in theory, it's something that started development, or it could have been in the early stages of development, but we think it's probably between sort of 3 to 9 months away from being released at this stage. Now, we don't really have a release date for that yet. We've not planned it into the schedule as of yet, so we're waiting for Mike and the TSG team to kind of to have the opportunity to work on it, and obviously we've been pulling them left, right and centre with other things at the moment. So we will, when it's more progressed, we will of course include it in the development section when we know it's a little bit closer.
Yeah.
Cool. Okay. So that's what we've got going on for the next few weeks, and then let's talk Glossop Line, shall we? So let's talk about the new stuff, the shiny stuff. We have there's a route map that we shared on the article. So if you're interested in the route map, then please take a look at it. It's been done, and there's a little teaser of I believe what's the the station that we use? Matt, I can't remember what the name of the station was.
That's Dinting.
Dinting, yes. A little tease of that in the background of the shot as well. So you want to try that. We're going to show you more information. Don't worry, over the next few weeks. But yeah, that'll feature the Class 3C3. And that will be obviously updated in the Northern livery, which is the first time I believe we've used Northern in TSW. Is that right,
yes.
Matt?
Yep. Yep.
And it's fully complete. It's a self-contained route, and it travels into modern-day Manchester for, again, the first time. Northern Transpennine obviously covered it back in the 80s, but this is the
That
first
was
time.
Manchester Victoria.
Yeah, sorry, this is Manchester Piccadilly as well, isn't it? So,
Yes.
yeah, and it's formerly part of the Woodhead line. It features a unique operation with a triangle junction as well, where you change track ends at Glossop to head to Hadfield. And in terms of those who, so if you haven't experienced like Birmingham Cross City, the 323, it's a really good opportunity to be able to do that. We saw a couple of questions, Matt, actually about why this particular route, because it's a little bit of a slightly different approach for us since from what players have come to expect over the last few months. So here's your elevator pitch, Matt. Tell us why we chose this route and why players should be excited about it.
I don't know the meaning of elevator pitch. You should know that about me now, unless you've got 500 stories in your building.
That's true. That's fair.
So the Glossop Line. So we wanted to bring a different operator, and Northern was a new operator, and we actually wanted to bring a shorter experience because it's not all about route length. Some of you really like your long routes, but we wanted to bring a shorter route that was complete, so that it was more of an end-to-end experience rather than being a bit of a route, for example. And actually, this route fit the bill really nicely. It's obviously being the first little bit of the Woodhead line. It's quite well known. With some really famous stations along the line like Guide Bridge and obviously Dinting. But I also, one of the things I really liked about the show, there's some really good cab rides actually on YouTube of the line, and one of the things I really liked about watching that was just the operational nature of it, in terms of you're driving from Manchester, I think, out to Hadfield, change ends, run round the triangle to Glossop, just down around the corner, then change ends again, and then drive back from Glossop back to Manchester, and that's your run, and that's just over an hour. So an hour is actually about the right for a bit of gameplay, but it also means if you just want 20 minutes something, then you can still do something meaningful. So not everybody has got massive amounts of time to do stuff, and they want to do something still complete and meaningful and so forth. So the scenery is really nice. It's up in the north, and so we've got different area to go on there. So it's just like there's a bunch of new stuff, different experiences, and I think combining it with the lower price, which was important for a product that was a shorter one like this, I'm super excited to see this one actually. From the minute I watched that cab ride, I was like, oh no, I want to drive this. This looks fun.
Yeah, I mean, just to confirm the price for UK players, it's £19.99 or will be £19.99. So if you're translating that into other currencies, I don't have those to hand, unfortunately, but that's what the British price looks like. So there is 5M41 LLL. I think that's what it is. Ask how does this fit into the LAMP process? Because we talked about the LAMP process in the last roadmap as kind of the way that we determine which routes go into game. Some will go through and pass with flying colours. Some might need a little bit of adjustment here and there. Some might not make it through the process. How does this fit into LAMP, and what were the kind of the things that made it kind of have that appeal through the LAMP process?
I mean, it's things that I mentioned previously, like new area, new operator, not a Southern Third Rail unit, and one of the things that people ask for sometimes is some more bite-sized experiences. It's the louder voices tend to be asking for the 300-400 mile routes, but there are a bunch of you out there more quietly asking, please don't make it all 300-400 mile routes. I want to do something in 20 minutes and feel like I've done something. So it's that product range has to appeal to a broader range of interests. And think of this more like, I think some people have mentioned this on the forums actually, more a Cathcart style experience. It's a shorter run, but it's still going to be something you can meaningfully do. And the reason that one of the reasons I was quite, I mean, the 323 wasn't the reason for choosing this route, but I was quite pleased when I saw the train was the 323 because so much work went into that 323. Sorry, Sophie, Mrs. Time Lord. Yeah, the 323 is used on this line only, I think. But yes, they do use this the 323 on this line. And so much work went into that 323, and a big shout out not only to the internal team that worked on it, but also to Daisy,
Yeah.
who put in so much of her time and energy into helping. It just, it was like, oh, I'll get another chance to get the 323 out and actually use it in some different colours. Is also a good thing as well. So, I'm pleased to be able to do some more with the 323 actually.
Absolutely. Where was it? Somebody in the chat was saying something, and I thought it was quite good. Sonic Scott said this route would go good for my work from home lunch breaks. Exactly. You can come in, do it, feel like you've achieved something, and then sort of go out and do whatever you need to do. It's about variety, I think, is what Matt was saying.
This is it. That's the key thing. Everybody's got different desires, and different desires at different times. It's like, sometimes you want to settle in for an evening and just do one thing, in which case, welcome to the home pass. Or sometimes you've got your quick lunch break and you want to do something which isn't going to feel like start it, get to the second station and press escape. It's I'm like I said, I've gone and have a look at the YouTube cab ride. There's at least one or two, one certainly that I found, which was a complete end-to-end run, and it was a good watch.
Nice one. Okay, well, we'll find out a little bit more about the Glossop line in future. Well, I mean, I think the next time we'll probably update. I'm just working backwards. Will probably be the next roadmap. So we'll have an update for you then, and we'll of course show you a little bit more about it at that point. But yeah, still its early stages at the moment, or early-ish stages anyway, and we'll look to be sharing a little bit more about it when we have more for you. Let's talk.
Jack is asking. Sorry, Jack is asking which Northern livery is a 323, and we can't show screenshots of it yet, but it is white with circles on it. I don't know if that explains enough.
White with circles on it. Good. Again, I'll put that one on the
that's on the store
copy page. Yeah.
I'm just trying to remind myself if there's any other distinctive features on it, or if if everyone's got what I mean with that.
We're still going through the sort of the full licensing approval process at the moment. So that's why we can't show images at this stage of the locos in question. But
so it's blue and white with a yellow and a cyan circle on it, and it says Northern on the side.
Yeah.
That one.
Yeah, I think it's the current or the current.
Yeah, I think it's the current livery. I think it's the current one.
Cool. Okay.
I'm not knowledgeable enough about Northern stuff. If it's not Southern and Third Rail, I'm in foreign lands.
Cool.
Which is exciting, to be honest. It's one of the reasons I'm enjoying this. I'm seeing lots of different types of trains.
Well, yeah, and things you wouldn't normally perhaps have the expertise in, I guess, or the sort of the in-depth knowledge of. It's quite nice to throw yourself out of your comfort zone sometimes. Okay, cool. Spirit of Steam patch. Now, that is, as we confirmed before, coming later this week. I believe we've earmarked Thursday, but I don't want to promise that quite yet, just in case anything does happen. But we're looking at sort of latter part of this week. Want to just quickly run down the things that we're looking at for improving. The kind of the headliners are we've got some physics updates to the 8F and the Jubilee, which will also then be ported into the 4F for Peak Forest as well, and we've also got the AI locos causing SPAD turntable issue that we've been parroting on about for a little while. We believe that is now fixed, so that is good. And as I say, I think Matt has lost many hours trying to test and work out what that one is with the rest of the team. So good. Sorry, for some reason my internal audio seems to be picking up WhatsApp. So bear with me 1 second. I'm just going to make sure that I kill that so that you don't hear that. Bear with me 1 second. There we go. That's where it is. Let's kill that dead, shall we? Okay, fine. Let's carry on. Other bits and pieces, there are some introduction, the Jubilee introduction, really reliable rescue, tables of turn scenarios. They should all now be completable in Spirit of Steam. There's a few derailment improvements. There is gold medals now achievable on bovine blockage scenario. There's reduction in the volume of the safety valves as well. We know that was a particular pain point for a lot of players. I think there is more to do on that one. I think we'll acknowledge that there's more to do, but that will come when we do more comprehensive physics improvements to Steam Locos moving forward as well. Again, if I've got that wrong, Matt, please let me know
No, I
and
mean,
correct me.
it should mean safety valves are going off when they shouldn't be going off because you haven't got the control over the fire. So what we've done in the meantime is make it more tolerable by lowering the volumes quite considerably on the safeties, which I don't think was present in that video that went out today. I think they were still the loud safeties. So, but you'll find out for sure when you hear it on when we do the preview stream for Peak.
Yep, which is on Thursday. I'll come to that in a second. Headlights not showing on AI Jubilees is now there. Tail lights is something we'll investigate a little bit later. And fixed scenario planner formations so that the loaded wagons don't face empty wagons as well. So all of those physics improvements will be ported over to Steam and Spirit Steam, West Cornwall Local, Steam Rail Tour, and then we'll be there for day one on Peak Forest.
Someone's actually asking about no tie-in for the coronation. There is a royal train scenario that we added to this one, so there's 6 scenarios in this one, because we wanted to add a royal train scenario as well.
Yes, we were gonna put that content out over the weekend, Matt, but you can have that as an exclusive tonight for
Didn't tell me that.
for this particular live stream. So there is a royal scenario as well, which is very cool. I'm glad that we're able to get that in there for the coronation. The manual firing is still in the process of being scoped out. That won't be a part of this update, and we're also investigating some of the intermittent running sounds on AI Locos as well. But it's unlikely that will come with this update as well. That's coming on the latter part of this week. A few people are asking for a little bit more detail on the physics improvements. So I asked our handy dev team to give me a little bit of a summary. So this is what they said. We've recalculated the valve gear events using new engineering features available to us. Previously, the valve gear opened instantly. Now we track both the start and the opening, start of opening and end of opening separately. So that's the same for closing as well. It changes the performance quite dramatically. You get less steam through the valves as they're open less for most of their travel, particularly at low cutoff. It means you could tend to drive with a higher cutoff percentage. What you could pull at 20% cutoff before, you might need 30% to achieve. It also changes the drafting on the fire, particularly at low speeds as well. The steam flows smoother and occurs over a longer time, meaning you can now achieve more sustained performance at low speeds. So that's a summary. Again, if you want to read that in full, that's in the article. But yeah, people are asking for a little bit more detail, so we try to provide a little bit more detail for you. Anything else that I've missed out on the Spirit of Steam improvements, Matt? I know you've been very close to this one. Is there anything else that we are looking at that either didn't quite make this patch but might make a future one?
Well, the tail lights one didn't quite make this one. The patches are actually been done, but it's sat behind something which needs more comprehensive testing. So there's that one. So there's a bunch. There is some more stuff that's taking a bit longer to get through testing. So I'm not going to promise that, and none of that's on this list. So there's potentially more that will come in a post-release patch. Certainly not going to promise it for release at this point. And someone said, "Is that it for fixes now and so forth on the 8F and the Jubilee?" No. Steam firing continues to be expanded and enhanced. So we've got a whole new firing system coming that didn't make it for Peak Forest. It needed to go back for some rethink, which is why we're scoping again essentially. We're going to go back for that, and that'll allow us to then progress with bigger and better things. So, but what you've got in the meantime is much more drivable steam locos that are more tolerable in terms of the volumes of the safeties. I've been having a lot of fun driving it in the 4F. It's a fantastic little thing to drive. But even taking the old trustworthies, the Jubilee and the 8F, up and down the Peak Forest have been and crew. Actually, I've been playing testing crew repeatedly for the last probably couple of weeks now. I've been doing nothing but crew, and just finding a new joy in that route. To be honest, with the new physics.
Yeah, I mean, and obviously those are coming on later this week. We'll wait to see your feedback on those when they go live. But all of those will be ported into Peak Forest as well, and the 4F, which brings us nicely onto Peak Forest route. And I've got some nice screenshots to show you. There's a feature in this week's roadmap, or sorry, this month's roadmap even, around banking operations and how we've implemented that into game. So I asked Michael from the gameplay team to give a little bit of a summary of some of the content that you can experience with that. I'm not going to go into all of the detail now, but it's a good read if you've not read it. But we showed some screenshots, which I'm just going to share on the screen for you folks now. There we go. So you can see some nice pictures while we talk about Peak Forest. So Matt, Peak Forest, how's development going? Obviously, we're releasing next Tuesday, the 9th. I'd like to think it's all there. Are you happy with it?
Very much so. This route has actually gone quite smoothly. The team have really been embracing this route. The environment team absolutely loving the scenery is just spectacular in this area in reality, and they've been really enjoying the recreation of that. It looks so different to Liverpool Crew, and then you've got the operational variety as well with with some steep gradients to climb and not lose your control of your train going down the other side of. I'm not saying I've ever done that. Yeah, just a tip there, folks. Make a note on if your train is fitted or unfitted, and yeah, keep to your speeds accordingly. And you've got banking operations, which work really well. There's some really cool stuff that's been done in the scenarios using the banking operations too, and double heading and all sorts of things. So there's a lot going on here that the team have really, I think they've really enjoyed it, making it, and you can see it just in what you're looking at with it. There's one scenario called Chinley Gala, which is just something completely different. Very, very cool stuff. The gameplay team, like I said, look at everybody. The gameplay team have been absolutely reveling in this route.
Yeah, I think scenarios, again, that was an area that I know players had mentioned a little bit on the forums. I saw a couple of threads around scenarios perhaps not offering diversity of gameplay, perhaps that they were beforehand. But I think with this particular route, the gameplay team have gone above and beyond to try and provide as fun and kind of a unique experience as they can do. A couple of player questions around Peak Forest. Crazy Killer asks, is that Ed's new telephone pole tech? I think was it used in the Dovetail barn, or was it used in?
I doubt it. Ed's not. Ed has done some scenery work. He focused on the viaduct, Monsaldale Viaduct, actually, if I remember rightly, and the area there. Because I haven't actually tried this myself, but Ed tells me he's put a walking path that's probably one of the longest walking paths in the game, so that you can get from the old disused Monsaldale station and walk to the major photography point where you can see across the viaduct, and it's apparently a really long walk. So I'm looking forward to. I keep forgetting to try that. So Ed's been involved in some areas of it, but no, I don't think that's Ed's telegraph tech.
No. We've got Michael in the chat actually. Thanks very much for your contribution to this month's roadmap, Michael. Yeah, we're looking forward to being able to test the route out on Thursday. So BC Bills asked, will the banking ops be included in the timetable services, or are they only in scenarios? They're
Both.
They're in both. Hentis asked, are there some pathways for scenario planner that start and end in yards?
So I think I've seen some. Are there enough? No. So one of the areas the team are looking to expand on is in some of the scenario planner paths, but I'm sure I saw some in there. But what we did take away from the review was perhaps not enough. So we are going to look at that.
Cool. Okay.
There was actually a bit of feedback from one of the beta testers as well.
Awesome. And yeah, some players in the chat have been to Monsaldale Viaduct in real life, myself included. It is wonderful, and I hope we've done it justice in game. Cool. Okay. Anything else on Peak Forest? We will have, I believe, the live stream is on. I know the live stream is on Thursday, so of course you'll get to see the route in action there. I'm going to note that we probably want to do a section on walking down. Quite an extended section on walking, so let's see if we can get that sorted. Anything else, Matt, on Peak Forest?
Crazy Killer actually poses an interesting question. Where are the 4F sounds from? Are there no running 4Fs? Fortunately, people recorded them before they were no longer running. Then they're not proper with audio recording equipment recordings. But actually, our Jamie here has sent over a bunch of recordings he'd taken head out the window with a recorder from right behind the Loco. So we've got some good sounds there. Ed himself had some sounds and a selection of whistles and so forth. So is it as good as it would be if we were able to record a fresh one? Possibly not, but it's really good considering that there are none in service and unlikely to be for a while. So, and so I think you'll be happy with it, and I'm certainly enjoying it. It sounds so different to the other trains. So yeah.
Yeah, Jamie was chuffed that he was that he was able to help contribute some of the audio bits and pieces. And I think we're still in discussion about who's going to be driving the route on Thursday, but Jamie will be on the stream. He is our Steam aficionado. He will know most things about most things, more so than I will be able to. So Jamie will be taking that live stream with Matt on Thursday. We're all excited to kind of see what you think. I didn't even mean to say chuffed in that instance, so I'm glad that I inadvertently chucked a pun in there as well. Cool. Okay. Just quickly on. Oh, in fact, no, actually, we skipped a bit that to go into Peak Forest. I wanted to talk a little bit about the new Trenton timetable, Matt, because I think it's something that we became very aware of very quickly was going to be a problem with Trenton, and we had a lot of challenges with the signaling system. It's a very complicated signaling system, and I think what ended up happening was that we ended up running a little bit short on time to allow the gameplay team to put in as many services as we'd like them to, and whilst I think it became very clear very quickly that we wanted to do something, it was very difficult for us to come out and say, yeah, absolutely, we're going to do it. But as of in the roadmap this time, we feel like we've got the work done to a certain degree for us to be able to talk about it publicly. Again, lots of detail from Joe and the team on the roadmap itself. But I'm really happy that we've been able to put that in there. We're not going to talk about release windows or anything like that because the work isn't finished, and it needs pretty substantial testing at this stage. But yeah, we're happy that we've been able to include bits and pieces in there. Any comment at all, Matt, on that?
No, I mean it's Joe and the team are doing a fantastic job on the work going on behind the scenes for that. And again, we're not at a point yet where we can sort of say when, but it's reached a milestone to the point that I think that all the Amtrak services, which were in before, and all the NJT playable services are in, and it's about bolstering up with all the AI now. And I know that even since I spoke to Joe previously, there's massive progress been made on that since then. So it's coming along really nicely. But one thing I did want to actually just mention, because it calls back to what we were talking about before, is this whole authenticity versus gameplay and experience thing, which he mentions actually here in the thing. He says, if a train we don't have is running a service, then it simply gets added as up 46 as a multi-levels. And this is where Joe has rightly said, actually it's close enough, it's not inappropriate, therefore let's put it in there, because the overall experience is going to feel busier and more appropriate versus a quiet but painfully authentic timetable where everyone's going, where are all the trains? So this is going to be, I mean, this is, again, it's only going to be where it's appropriate, but it's I think Joe is making absolutely the right call there to make sure that when you're driving in and out, running in and out with the trains, it definitely feels like it's a busy timetable. And I think it's something like, I mean, Joe is in the chat, isn't he? So he can shout at me if I get this wrong. But I think we shipped with something like 19 out of 64 diagrams. So that gives you an idea of how many times more busy it is by comparison. So, and that's just on the playable stuff. There's all the AI stuff then bolstering that up beyond that, which is what some of the stuff that's going in at the moment. So it's exciting times, but we don't know. At this point, we're not ready to quite say when they'll be coming out. It's when it's done, and it'll go out then. But because it needs the time it needs, basically.
Absolutely. So as of right now, and for what Joe was able to send through to us. We've got the full Amtrak and Acela as with release. These services might be slightly different now with more delays due to the increased NJT traffic. It's got full electric NJT timetable, is now complete with a few late trains that are being fixed or simulated. As I said, as he typed this, but that was kind of as of last week. And it doesn't include the Arrow 3 Princeton Junction, Princeton AI, or diesel equipment out of Newark Penn, Hoboken, or AI traffic at Secaucus Junction as well. So with all of the above, it's now the largest US timetable in TSW, which I think a lot of players hoped it would be when we announced it. So yeah, work is still going on, because I think that there are aspirations to include additional AI traffic as well. But again, we don't want to confirm that at this stage, because we don't have the full details and the work hasn't been completed as of yet. But when we do, we'll let you know.
Big shout out to Joe. Great work.
As ever. Well done, Joe. So he's in the chat as well, actually, so he's probably better equipped. If you have any additional questions to ask in the chat, and he might be able to give you a little bit of guidance on them. And when we get, actually, that is a very good point. Thanks, Australia Worldwide Gaming. Can we get a preview stream for the timetable update on New York Trenton? Yep, when we get it to a position where we are happy with it and it's close to release, yep, we'll do another stream with Trenton included. It's a significant update and a significant improvement, so we'd want to make sure you could see it. Cool. Okay, let's move on to quickly the Class 700. We don't have too much to update this time round, just because, as I say, there's work that's going on in the background, but we are still a little further away from release at this point, so there's not something tangible that we can really give you. But we did have a little screenshot for you that we wanted to share, which is of the cab. So I'm going to quickly change over to that. So that is currently the inside of the cab for the Class 700. Matt, any further updates on that from a dev perspective at all, or are things just moving along?
Things are moving along, but again, I want to give a big shout out to members of the beta team who are actually giving us a lot of first-hand experience feedback on this, and what things should do and how they should work, and what happens when these breaks. You get an emergency brake, because it's got all the latest of everything on it, as you can imagine. And so what happens when you trip TPWS, for example, is, it's a touch screen. You have to use the touch screen to acknowledge the alarm and so forth. So we're getting all that information, yeah, I just want to say a huge shout out and big thank you to everybody that's giving the information we need to get you guys the experience that you want.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's, as Scott M mentioned, it's got a nice big window at the front, which is always quite nice. There are obviously quite a few trains where that maybe hasn't been the case in recent times. But yeah, it looks like you get a nice panoramic view, which is always good when you're operating a piece of machinery.
It's quite rare down these parts to actually be able to see what you're doing on a train.
Yeah, absolutely.
Most of the time, it's a postage stamp you've got to look through. So I'm actually I've not taken this one for a spin yet, and I'm quite looking forward to getting into it. What I did just admit, though, I didn't say anything about the team who've been working on it and actually reacting to the feedback and going that extra mile. And so the internal team have been doing a really good job of trying to push it as far as they can as well. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to giving this one a go.
Yeah, and when it comes closer, we'll answer questions about various different things. It's still in the kind of the setup stages at the moment. So as I say, the outer shell is there. Some of the internal work is done, but it's not fully there yet. So once that is there, we'll be able to talk a little bit more about it. And I really like the little detail. You can see little fingerprint marks on some of the screens, which look really, really cool. Nice little detail there.
Yeah, we were able to get access to not only to the real 700 but also the driver training simulator and all sorts of things. So the team have had access to all sorts of things. So big shout out to everybody actually that's been able to get us everything we need. So it should make it a really fun train to drive.
All right, brilliant. Just while we are talking about pieces of content that are upcoming, obviously we mentioned a few patches that we're hoping to release in the coming weeks. That'll include patches for Bremen-Oldenburg, for Niddertalbahn, for Linker Rheinstrecke. So 3 pieces of German content. We've also got Midland Mainline as well, where I think we've had the first tranche of fixes in or improvements in from Skyhook Games, which I think the QA team and the beta team will be testing over the course of the next couple of weeks. So that probably won't be the only improvement that comes to Midland Mainline, but it will certainly be hopefully something that feels very meaty and takes on a lot of the feedback from players. Just while we are talking about Midland Mainline, I wanted to give a bit of shout out to Jane from Skyhook, who's the chief technical officer at Skyhook. Obviously, she's provided us with the information for the roadmap for today. I'll go through the things that they're looking at in a second, but she is also now on our forums and really kind of interacting and engaging with players on the forums about some of the things that are going on with Skyhook and with Midland Mainline in particular. So yeah, just want to give her a quick shout out because we really enjoy some of our partners coming in and engaging directly with players, because obviously they're closer to the products than perhaps we are able to be, because we don't get to see them on a day-to-day basis. So kind of getting it from them directly is really important. So here's a quick summary of the areas of focus that they're looking at. Not all of these are confirmed, but most of them are things that, or all of them are things that Skyhook are currently investigating. Expanding the timetable as per community feedback. I don't have the full details at the moment, but there are a couple of services that we had to remove before release. Those have been added, and I think they're looking at sort of changing and improving the timetable as far as adding more services and possibly more freight content as well. But again, nothing fully confirmed yet. Oh, actually, yes. The next bullet point is whole new freight services added to the route. So scratch what I just said. They're looking at adding freight services to the route. Route resignaling to address issues and enhance realism. Environment fixes and updates. Station updates to include additional realism. Multiple bridges remodeled from scratch to reflect their real-world counterparts. City updates to include more bespoke buildings like Pride Park in Derby, the Velodrome, and others. Significant functionality improvements to the 158. Performance updates, adding on the services that were removed just before release, addressing the issues where NPCs get stuck in the doorway. I know that one was a particular annoyance for a lot of players. Updating vehicle coupling and logic, and addressing issues with the HST set, including functionality and unit numbers too. So quite a comprehensive list there. Again, all on the forums and all on the roadmap article, but glad to see that they're kind of taking on the community feedback. Jane has been getting down and dirty with everybody and making sure that she's getting that feedback in from everybody. So yeah, big hats off to them, and also, as I say, we'll be keeping you informed when those things get released moving forward. Just Trains. So we're kind of coming to our partner program update at this stage. Just Trains have put in an update on the route that they're working on as well. I'm not going to read it word for word, but you can read it on the roadmap article. You might have to scroll down quite a lot. It's quite a long roadmap article, but they have provided an update on the route that they're working on, as well as a couple of additional train-related puns, which I have a lot of time for in. Work essentially TLDR is that work is going well. They're starting to implement. I think they've implemented 26 miles of scenery with about 20 miles left to go. So things are progressing nicely. Obviously, there is kind of a, hey, we've done this thing. Now it needs to be kind of tested, reviewed, checked. And obviously, by that point as well, we'll probably have implemented that kind of golden standard of these are the things that need to come with all of these routes. So again, we'll be looking at all of that when it comes to how appropriate it is to kind of move it to the next step, which would be kind of a formal testing and start putting it into a release window. Anything you wanted to add on the Just Trains content, Matt?
They're doing really well, actually. This is their first route, and they've really grasped the tooling well. And what Unreal can do for them as well. So I'm really impressed by what I'm seeing in terms of the visual output and the level of detail they're getting into the route, and also the way they're optimizing it. We were doing some Xbox One testing of the route last week, and seeing 30 to 40 FPS in the areas marked as finished. In some of the busiest areas we could find, and that was kind of the lowest frame rates we were seeing. So, and our frame rate tester, the automated test tool we've got, which is running on this as well, is reporting very high frame rates across the board. Now they've still got more to go before they're finished, of course, but that's a really good sign, and there's normally not what you expect to see a first-time developer in TSW coming from TS Classic. So the team at Just Trains have spent a lot of time learning the environment, and working out how to get the best out of it. And yeah, their first test on Gen 8 consoles went past with flying colours. Yeah, very, very impressed by what's going on with it, and it's looking like a really fun route.
Awesome. And just while we're on partner updates, anything of note to mention about ATS or Union Workshop as well?
I've had no update. I don't have an update on ATS. I don't have an official update on Union Workshop, except I'm going to tease you all now and say I know what route they're making, and I'll tell you later on when it's in a good
Yes,
point to
say not
share
later,
that.
not later on tonight. Later
Yeah, I'll be
down
on
the
the
line.
forums later. Wink, wink. But no, it's a great project. They've got some good stuff going on, and I'm sure ATS do as well. I just need to catch up with them. Yeah, it's. I've also been talking to a couple of potential new third parties, and going back to the likes of Rivet, Skyhook, and seeing what they're planning on doing. They've got some pretty cool plans coming as well. So there's things are warming up a bit, shall we say? It's very good. And yeah, as David Park says, ATS is still pretty new. They're going to be going through this same cycle that Just Trains have done. Just Trains have had a long time now with the tooling to get to where they're at. ATS are just going through that process as well. So yeah, it's all good actually. I'm really excited by some of the stuff that's going on with third party at the moment.
Yes, 5M41LLL asks, I think related to Edinburgh Glasgow, any update on gathering sounds for the 385? Because I think that's something that we talked about when we were previewing the route about the access to the sounds. Has there been any update on that at all?
So we've had one recording trip to capture internal sounds. That doesn't really help the fundamentals of the issues. It gives us a fresh set of sounds for the 385 internals. What we're waiting for is to get the second trip organised where we can go and attach the microphones outside the train and get all running sounds from it. We're waiting for that to get done, and we'll let you know once we've done that trip. But at the moment, no, we're still waiting for that one. It's quite time consuming to get some of these trips organised because for some reason these pub companies have got trains to run and services to deliver and passengers that want stuff. So we can't just take the trains out of service when we want to willy-nilly. It's strange, but
How inconsiderate.
But no, ScotRail have actually been really supportive, and they are getting the second trip lined up for us. So it's really good. We will get there. We will get there.
And I imagine recording internal sounds is easier than external sounds because
Yeah, internal sounds is easy because it doesn't need to be a train that has to move. If it hasn't got to move, you can just pop on to any train in the depot really and do all your clicks and burrs and get your fan noises and your internal stuff. If you want anything with the train moving, which you still want internal sounds from as well, then it has to be a train that's going in service. And that's a different thing because you're attaching equipment to trains that are going out in actual service. So there's processes that have got to be followed and checks that have got to be done. So those things can all happen. It just takes a bit longer to organise.
Cool. Okay. We are going to do some Q&A at the end, by the way, everybody. So if you have other questions, then you can either hold them or you can chuck them in the chat, and we'll take some of the ones that we can. So that will be coming. This is kind of your 5-minute warning, I guess, for Q&A because we've got some other bits and pieces we're updating you on, but we'll open the floor for sort of 15-20 minutes at the end for some questions. The core improvements that we've put on the roadmap and that have been on the roadmap for a little while now, so we'll whistle through some of those. Add-ons manager, still testing on Xbox, and we want to make sure again that it's in a good enough spot that we feel comfortable that players are not going to have a negative experience with it. If it's the same, then cool. If it's worse, then obviously we don't want that to be the case. So we're just taking a look at the testing right now. Someone earlier mentioned PS4 content being missing, or some of the locos being missing from certain routes. We believe that's a UI issue, and we believe, Matt, again, correct me if I'm wrong, that I think we have a fix for that, and it might be coming with the update on Thursday. So if you're still seeing problems after that update, then please let us know. But yeah, we're aware of it. Thank you to everybody that raised that. Yeah, we jumped on that, I think, towards the back end of last week, and we believe that we've solved it. Okay, HST livery designer compatibility, mentioned that already, but planning to get that out this month. in one of the patch releases. It won't be this week's one, but hopefully it'll be one in May. Peninsula Corridor and Oakville Baby Bullet services. Matt, I know that we were talking about this one earlier, and I think we said that we were going to prioritise the Peninsula Corridor improvements over Oakville. Can you just give us a little bit of the rationale for that?
Yeah, so because the UI is locking out where you can't see a bunch of services that should be there. The Oakville is extra stuff, and it's on a second timetable. So effectively, the Oakville product as it was delivered works, whereas the Peninsula Corridor one is not working as well as it should do. So I want to prioritize making that get up to 100% before we work on something else getting up to 150%. But I think the solution for one is the same as the solution for the other. They're both about the MP36s and so forth. And if there's any like scenarios, tutorials, we're making a pass over that kind of thing as well, Arthur. So we'll make sure to take in that stuff as well. I know that as a fairly meaty patch, I think, waiting for Peninsula Corridor and Oakville. So those things may already be resolved, but they're waiting for this other stuff. So we want to prioritize Peninsula Corridor just because get that one back up to where it's supposed to be.
Yeah, absolutely. And then on TSW2, Preservation Crew are kind of it's kind of become a bit of a meme at this point, and yes, it needs to come out. It absolutely should come out, and we are, as we've said many times, committed to bringing it out. The team we actually have brought in a new build engineer a couple of weeks ago. They're still kind of getting up to speed with stuff, but it's just hopefully lighten the load a little bit on our build team to be able to kind of help create some of this or move some of this backlog of stuff, including the TSW to Preservation Crew improvements. So no promises at this stage, no release dates, but it's something again that we're kind of looking into. Right. Anything else, Matt, you wanted to touch on or go over before we move into Q&A? Anything else that's on your mind, or anything else you've seen in the chat that you wanted to talk about or address before we move into Q&A?
Did we cover the Loco pack updates?
Oh, no, we didn't. That is a very, very good shout, because I have an image for that and I completely forgot about it. Okay, yep. Also coming on Thursday, we have a post-release improvement patch for the Loco Add-On Bundle 2, specifically adding the extra scenario to the German pack, and it also adds in a few improvements to the US pack as well. Matt, do you want to just quickly run through those with me? I've got an image we can show.
Trying to work out. I mean, I was part of making some of these improvements, and I can't remember what they are. I know this one. This one was a key one that I worked with the team to deliver, which is to put an American truck on the American flat car rather than a European truck. Yeah, big shout out to the team for stepping up on that one and modifying some scenery and making that work properly. So yes, that does actually make a big difference to that. So that's good to see. There was the missing scenery on the OC. Have you got a description in this document about what the changes are?
I got a couple of summaries.
It's so long ago now.
Let me just see if I can find it for you. Matt, keep talking, and keep everyone at home keep looking at the pretty picture. Keep talking, and I will find the description for you. I think that there were a couple of things that we mentioned in the roadmap, but we'll get the full change list over with the update itself. I need to just take a look at that tomorrow, because we get given a big old spreadsheet of lots of things given in dev speak, and yes. I understand about 20% of it. So Matt helps me through.
We throw a wall of tech at JD, and he just looks at us blankly and says, "And try again."
Yeah, and I cry a little bit in the corner. So yeah.
True story. So yeah, there's the, like I say, this is probably one of the a nice change to see. The other one was, is the extra scenario from the ICE that was missing, yeah. Which is quite fun actually, because one of the scenarios that comes with the ICE pack, you drive the Pride ICE. The other one, you drive the Eco ICE, and we thought, well, what would the third one be then? And you drive both of them in that one, which is quite neat. It's a full length line run, and you drive one train half of it and the other train the other half of it. That one's quite a fun scenario where there's all sorts of stuff going wrong on the line that day, and you'll be wrong line running and all sorts of things. So it's quite a fun scenario, and I hope you enjoy it. So
yes. Thanks for filling, Matt, because I've got the other thing that was mentioned in the roadmap, which is adding more scenario planner formations to using the truck trailers and the center beams out in this patch as well.
There you go.
So yes, I believe there were timetable bits and pieces that were mentioned, but I think they're coming later, right?
Yes, yeah.
Yeah,
The timetable changes didn't make it in this time around.
cool. Okay, all right. Well, thanks, Matt, for calling that out for me, even if you didn't have that much knowledge yourself and asked me to get it for you, but that's fine. That's fine. Okay, question time, everybody. We have about 10-15 minutes, let's say, for some questions. As ever, content specific stuff about is this coming? What is this thing that's on the roadmap that's not described? We're not going to confirm that stuff. You're going to get back it's not on the roadmap. We want to try and answer things that are a little bit more I guess top level, a little bit more interesting to answer. So we'll try and take some of those over the course of the next 10 minutes or 11 minutes, 10-15 minutes maybe. Phoenix asks, what route will the Class 700 run on? Southeastern, I
Yep.
believe. Yep. Inigo Vanneman asks, is the PC Add-Ons Manager going to butcher the ability to use mods?
Nope. We are. We did the original version, the original pass on the add-ons manager. We actually worked with some mod developers and downloaded and tested a bunch of mods and made some changes, and also provided some feedback to mod developers to sort of some things that we're doing which weren't working well with mod manager. Before we release it on PC, we'll take the latest version and do the same round again. It's very important that we're not going to guarantee that mods don't work, that mods work, but we'll do our best to make sure that as many as possible work, and we'll provide feedback to mod developers where we see they don't work. And I know that Triple J, you sent me a couple of mods, and they're on the list to be looked at as well. So hopefully we've got this in hand, and we'll be working with the community to make sure that it's good.
Cool. Good questions coming in. I'm just grabbing them as soon as I can. I've just got a really big image that's just gone through onto the script. Give me one sec. Just kind of following on from the Class 700, someone's asked, will it layer onto the London Commuter? I don't believe we have. I don't think we've confirmed that yet, Matt. I
It
don't know if
won't.
you. It
It
won't.
won't.
Okay.
It won't. The London Commuter needs an optimization pass to allow room, otherwise it'll just become a very crashy route running out of memory everywhere. Something we'd like to do, and I know something that Joe wants to do and has left some space in the timetable to do, but does at this point, no. That route is already the biggest timetable. Although Southeastern, correct me if I'm wrong, assuming Joe is still working, I think now has 40 layers. For those that think about what layers mean, Southeastern is the rather route with the most layers in the game, that's an astounding amount of traffic.
Okay. So I guess my kind of follow-up question to that, Matt, is obviously there is seemingly, because I think there's also rush hour passengers that are due for London Commuter as well. Obviously the route needs an optimization pass in order to kind of unlock some of this other stuff. Is that penciled in? Is that scheduled in? Or is that something that is going to be more of an incremental improvements as we go through and perhaps we use new optimization techniques, I guess, by creating other passenger-based routes?
We haven't got a date scheduled in for doing that optimization pass. As I said earlier on, Munich potentially looks like it needs it as well. It is going to be a case of trying to work out where the issues are and then developing tools to find them automatically, I think. Same as we've done, we have a set of tools which can identify some of these things, and it may be we can already see some potential problems once we start digging into it. But I suspect it's going to be different things, because otherwise we'd already have looked at them. So this is what we need to. Now, part of the problem might just be that London Brighton is just that big. It's got the most complex track database in the game and the biggest timetable, with just over 4,500 active services in it and over 100 active trains at any one time in it. So it's already the biggest in so many dimensions. So I don't know where we'll get to on that. What we need to do is just keep looking and finding out what we can do with it. So, no, I don't have a date for you on that one.
Okay. Anarchist Angel asks, is the API documentation for custom hardware still in scope? I asked you about this the other day, actually, Matt, didn't I?
Yeah, so it's not about the documentation, but actually adding the API, that is now, our beta testers now have access to it. It's I think a JSON based thing. you can basically write a web page really easily that will allow you to read and write into the game. It's quite a clever interface, the but there's no documentation for it, and I don't at this point know when it's going to make it out, because something like this needs a lot of testing, because it pokes right into the internals. You can read and write directly into Simulgraph, so if you want to, have any valve or any dial or any light or anything rumbling in the real world, out of any value from Simulgraph, you can kind of do that with this API. So I'm not going to put a date on it, because, as I said, there's an awful lot of stuff to test here. But it's made good progress. And I know I've seen some people in the beta team who are hardware modders have got speedometers working and such. So it's coming.
And important to note as well, that really helps for things like custom setups, accessibility, all of that kind of stuff. So if you have adaptive controllers or anything like that, this is something that might be of interest further down the line too.
Potentially, yeah.
Questions. A couple on Peak Forest. TOC asked, will the 4F have passenger services in timetable mode? There were screenshots with the 4F pulling MK1s.
Are you sure? Because the 4F doesn't have any passenger services. That's one of the things that we're potentially going to revise in a patch. But as at launch, the 4F does not have passenger services.
Okay. I'll have a look about that then. And in terms of the AI fireman perhaps disappearing or cold disappearing, I know again we've talked about that, Matt. There is some work going in at the moment to see if we can improve that, right?
Yes, so in terms of the fireman disappearing, we think we have a handle on that. It was another core change, so it hasn't made it into initial release, but I think that's gone into the test builds as of today, and so we'll be doing more testing on that, and we'll get that out as soon as we're comfortable with it. And I think that fixes a lot of the problems with the fireman vanishing. We're certainly seeing a lot more reliability so far. In terms of firing and the firing, manual firing and all that stuff, that's not made any progress as the roadmap said. That one is we're figuring out. We've got to get back to this new firing component operational before we can move back onto the plans for manually interacting.
Okay. Adrian asks, any updates on the AI PIS bug still present on some of the older routes like Southeastern and Birmingham Cross City? I think we asked about this in the last roadmap live stream, Matt.
Probably. I don't have an update, unfortunately. So other than to say no, they'll still be there. I don't have a date for any change in there. Not forgotten it though, and it's on my list to try and find out where the issue is there and get that one fixed. But I don't have an answer for that one right now.
Chief Longshin asked an interesting question. Obviously, elephant in the room. Obviously, we had the news that we've been purchased by Focus Entertainment since the last roadmap. Chief Longshin asked, how do we think this will change the dev cycle within Dovetail? I think we were quite clear in the way that we presented it to everybody within the community. For us, it's business as usual. We don't foresee too many changes that are forced upon us. I think most of the changes that we are making are based on things that we have decided that we wanted to do ourselves. All of the things that we mentioned at the start of the live stream have had no involvement with Focus at all. They are very much things that we're talking about and we've been working on for a little while ourselves. So I don't envisage that changing anytime soon. I don't know if you've heard anything different, Matt.
Not at all. Focus are very supportive of what we're doing, it's so we're doing. We'll be carrying on as we are, and if Focus have some advice, then obviously they'll offer it, and we'll listen to it. But for short to medium term, at least, it's business as usual.
Yes, cool. Puzzle Peanut asks, I don't know if this is an appropriate question for this stream, but will you communicate news from TramSim in a stream as well? I believe we're kind of through the initial launch window of TramSim, and obviously that launched last week if people are interested on console. We're not going to be using our roadmaps to talk about TramSim improvements or kind of patches or anything like that. What we've kind of suggested as a better way to do this is within View Apps communities and within View Apps social channels, they're going to talk about some of the things that are being improved. It feels more natural to do it that way. And then where appropriate, we might retweet something, or we might add a bit of commentary here and there, or we might feature, if it's a particularly large one, we might say, actually, you know what, they talks about this thing here. If you want to read a little bit more information, then do so on a roadmap. But we don't want to make it kind of a mainstay of the roadmap, particularly if the improvements that they're making are relatively minor. We're not going to take really any questions about sort of the purchase or anything like that at this stage. There's stuff that we wouldn't be able to answer, stuff that we've not been involved in, but it's just it's happened. We don't envisage any changes, and we're here right now talking about all the stuff that's interesting.
I don't quite follow your will we have TMS working at by foot, start, or short routes? Or do you want to just run that by me again, and perhaps send me a DM on the forums, Kabepe, so that I can get you an answer for that?
Yeah, absolutely. Let's go for one more question. Let's go for one more question. So we'll take one more from the chat. Last chance, everybody, if you want to throw something in.
Has the blood and custard bug been fixed? There are no blood and custard coaches still showing up on Spirit of Steam. No, that is a secondary thing that I'll be looking at some point. Again, related to memory and performance. So it's kind of thing. It's an easy thing to fix, but it'll be something later on. The main priority was derailments, crashes, bugs, AI spads, that kind of thing. They're things that actually break the experience. And I think we got all of those nailed. Keen to see if you find anything else. But that was the priority for the fixes.
Cool. Okay, so that will be the last question. So that will be the last question. Thanks very much, everybody, for tuning in tonight. We're going to do a quick little admin section at the end, just so that if you've missed anything that we've talked about over the course of the stream, you've got it at the end. But again, if you've not seen the full thing and you want to watch back through it, again, be our guest. The whole reason we do these is to try and communicate with you a little bit better and make sure that you're aware of what's going on with us behind the scenes. We're also going to try something a little bit different. It might not happen this month. It might be in a future month, but we want to also put together something that's a little bit like a mid-month update for you, just because we were aware that moving the roadmap to monthly, I think, has loads and loads and loads of benefits, but it does perhaps mean that we don't get an opportunity to really update you throughout the course of a month on how some of these things are going on, and a lot can happen in a month. So we're going to try and see if we can put together a short video. Will probably likely be fairly low-key, sat down chatting about stuff, but we want to try and see if we can have that as a little opportunity to talk to you in a little bit more detail in a slightly shorter format as well. Then these aren't going to be hour and a half long videos. They'll probably be 4 or 5 minutes at most. So we'll see if we can get that implemented for maybe, well, we're going to have discussions to see if we can get something done in May, but it might be that it slips to June next time round. But yeah, you might see that coming up on our channels in the future. Quick reminder, so we've announced Glossop Line this month as the new British route. It'll be priced at £19.99 sterling. We'll have different conversions when we talk about the route properly. We have the Spirit of Steam patch with some Loco Add-On Bundle improvements coming on Thursday. There's also hopefully a fix for the PS5, PS4 missing content from Add-ons Manager improvement as well. Hoping for Thursday, so keep your eyes peeled. Other bits and pieces that you might have missed that we really recommend that you read. Lucas's LiDAR scanning and building landscapes section, really interesting new technology that we're using for our new content. The free French add-ons, so LGV and some Train Simulator French add-ons will be free from May the 26th to June the 2nd, subject to Microsoft confirming on their platforms they're okay with that. For that date, we don't envisage there being any problems about them being free. It just might not be on that date. You'll be able to download it for free during those windows, and you get to keep it forever. So that's a nice little gift from us to celebrate our purchase, the purchase of Dovetail Games last month. And Trenton Timetable improvements are in development. Again, full details on the roadmap. Same with some of the patches that are coming up from the likes of Skyhook Games and the Spirit of Steam patch. There's new German Loco in the roadmap as well. And I've kind of gone very, very round the houses with that, but I think that covers everything. Peak Forest preview on Thursday with Jamie and Matt as well. So, thank you very much, everybody, for watching. Matt, anything else you would like to let everybody know before we finish for tonight?
Nope, I think we've done it all and we've admined them out.
We have admin them out. I mean, is that such a thing even possible? Okay, everybody. We hope you have a lovely, lovely rest of your evening. We look forward to seeing you on Thursday for the Peak Forest preview. And other than that, have a lovely evening, everyone. See you a little bit later.